here at the World Percussion Group for another session by the amazing Joe Porter. Joe, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, Tim.
It's great to see you, and it's amazing to see your career flourish in ways that I'm sure you never envisaged when we first set off on our very first debut WPG tour, and you were in the very first group, weren't you, as well?
Yeah, the original tour.
Yeah, the original Las Vegas startup. What a journey that was, and thanks for joining us here and just sort of sharing your words of wisdom a little bit with some of the newcomers to the platform.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to see everyone and meet everyone.
Fantastic. So I didn't know if maybe you could just briefly tell us a little bit about yourself, and if you want to, sort of, how your career's developed. That would be amazing for everyone watching and also for the guys on the platform as well.
Right. Well, probably like everyone else, I started as a drummer, and then later on, I discovered the percussion world because I was auditioning for university. And so I was panicked to audition, so I bought a marimba because my cousin had told me that you have to learn marimba for an audition, and he had played tuba at the university here. So I had a little bit of insight. So basically, I bought the Gifford Howarth DVD, Simply 4, and watched it and tried to learn Stephen's grip by myself. And I could barely read notes at that time, just rhythms. And I learned a simple piece from his book. And from there, I got in university and kind of like everyone else, went through it, did a bachelor's degree, and then that went really well. So I did a master's degree, and then I started teaching right after. I was going to do a doctorate, but there was a art center that opened up in Lethbridge, and I was offered a studio there. So I started with basically 5 students, and I just did a lot of grinding, marketing, got everywhere I could. And I grew that studio to over 50 students in the first year. I started all these percussion groups. I was teaching lots of kids world drumming. I started a teenage percussion ensemble, which didn't exist here. That was the first time. I was teaching people that were homeless, starting to get back into society. I was teaching them drums, just hanging out with them and having fun. Probably doing over 100 workshops a year, performing, kind of growing a career as a freelancer. And then it was so busy that I started saying no to work. So I just had too much. And then COVID hit, and basically my job was just swiped away slowly. Couldn't do any workshops or anything. And so I was just teaching. I was also teaching a little bit at the university at that time, but everything was slowly starting to disappear. Basically was just doing lessons online, and that was okay. I got by, but then I was starting to think, I have 2 young kids. Maybe I should change careers, because Canada had really extreme COVID-19 restrictions. So we couldn't really do anything for, around 2 years. So I was thinking about switching careers, and I decided to throw out these fun YouTube videos just as a random thing. And somehow they took off, and now that's my full-time job. So yeah. It's amazing how things change over time, and you never know where you're going to end up. So
yeah, and you're very modest, Joe, because I would say that it didn't just take off. How many subscribers have you got on your channel right now?
On YouTube, I think 4.9 million right now.
Yeah, that's very impressive, especially for percussion as well. It's very, very impressive. All right, great. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for that. So we're going to start then with our very first marimba solo. And we're going to bring on Graham, who is here. Hey, Graham.
Hello.
Awesome.
I didn't know. I know you're in California right now, having fun, but I didn't know if you could maybe just briefly tell Joe a bit about yourself whilst I cue your video, and maybe a little bit about Chain as well.
Yeah. So I just graduated from North Texas, and now I'm headed to the Frost School of Music in the fall for a master's degree. And this recording of Chain, I think, was actually done about 2 months ago now, and it's sort of in the middle of like some of my audition processes, and I just when they recorded it to have do some self-criticizing and just to have a video to go forward with of Chain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a piece by Kazunori Miyake. I think I came across it on Noriko Tsukugoshi's album. I believe it was Dear Marimba, where she has the recording of it, and then I instantly liked it and just wanted to learn it. And so that's kind of how I got started on the piece.
Great. All right.
Cool. And so you're not playing it today, you're showing a recording, is that right?
Yeah, the way we're going to run these sessions, rather than do it live, because we don't have a great deal of time as well, and obviously with sound quality and stuff like that, we'll just showcase the video, and then you can give us your words of wisdom for a few minutes, and then I'll give you a hollow. It's probably going to be about 20 minutes each person, because I think we've got 5, so and then maybe a few minutes questions at the end. All right, here we go.
Good.
Let's pop you back. All right, I'll just unmute.
All right. Awesome playing there, Graham. Yeah, I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed that. Yeah, fantastic. So I have one, maybe a few things just to suggest to you, but I think you're doing an amazing job with playing, and you have a wonderful command at the instrument. I really like your technique, and I think you're getting a nice sound. Um, so one thing that I think would really help you in general is your footwork.
Mm.
So this is something we never talk about, but it's probably the most important thing, just because note accuracy is so hard. Um, just on our instrument, like without putting hundreds of hours behind a piece, and if you're trying to prepare something quick and to get it clean, I think the secret is actually footwork. So I want to just show you a stance that I think would help you. And it'll also help your spread. I'm just going to put on my camera. I think it makes my voice echoey, but I'm going to switch to that view if I can figure out how. Tim, do you know how to, oh, no. How do I toggle cameras in this platform?
If you go, I think you go to the cog and then click on video.
Okay,
Oh, there it is.
You got it? Yeah, you got it.
See a marimba there?
Yep.
Okay, I don't even need to show that. I just need to show this. So, I think the best stance for playing marimba is your legs are out on an angle like this, and we're gonna bend like that. So you, instead of being parallel to it, we want to be on that angle outwards, and that allows us to use our knees to go like that. So this is important, especially when you have those wide spreads. There's one spread where you're pretty hunched over. Maybe that, I gotta fix that angle a bit. There we go. So there's one spread in there where you're like this, and that gets hard because it's very hard to spread. But if you get low in that stance, we can go much wider, a lot easier. And it's a lot easier to have control when we're down low like that. We can get parallel or we can bend like that. But what happens when you're like this, it's hard to get low and wide. So this will be a lot better. And if you're using this motion when you're moving, I think it'll help just smooth things out. It'll be easier. You don't have to move as much, and it's much more athletic. So could you try that stance? Is there a way you could just try standing like that?
Yeah, I think. Wait. A little limited by my head. But just having it more angled out, like my feet angled out.
I think you muted yourself, Joe, somehow.
Sorry, say that again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, you're back.
Is that okay? Okay, sorry. Yeah, try to put your leg out and just bend with your legs back and forth.
Yeah, I see how, like, at the angle I can get further
Yeah,
sideways with
that
less
allows you
movement and
to
stuff.
have so much control where your knees don't work if they're straight. Like you have to physically move your feet if you're
Hmm.
shifting, like if your feet are parallel, but if they're like this, you have so much more range you can play on the instrument. So
Hmm.
that's something small that can go a long ways. So I would explore that. Um,
Yeah, that's now that as I'm like trying it out and everything, I realize that would probably help with a lot of those runs and stuff back and forth. Because I often
yeah,
found myself when practicing this, it was all of a sudden I felt like just off balance a little bit as I'm playing.
right. The harder the piece, the the harder it is to like be comfortable. It's not like a piano. So um, yeah, I think the more athletic stance you have and the more range it gives you, the freer you are. And for me personally, I find my note accuracy is way better because you can also get parallel with the instrument almost always, like when you're doing that shifting,
Hmm.
where if when you move a little bit, it's just a little bit awkward. So yeah, that's a big one. Another small thing that I think would be nice, especially if you're playing this live, is just to have a little bit of a bigger cadence at times and actually have some silence. So in the middle of a song, there's this, or I should say, piece. There's this big cadence point. I'm trying to remember. I wasn't looking at the music, but it was
Is
kind of
it the
like
one that actually has the grand pause marked?
probably.
Is
I wasn't looking at music, but I
uh-huh.
thought it would be really nice, like, and then go on. Like, it just needs a little bit more, like, of a wake up, like, bam, I got this run. It has more impact to the audience if you have that space.
Hmm.
Um,
Do
because
you
the
ever
challenge with
like?
the piece, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just, how do you choose how long like spaces like that are? Is there something that you think of, or like a rule of thumb, or is it just kind of different every time?
I like to have no rules, so it's all about the moment for me. Um,
Hmm.
so I think it kind of depends. Like, let's think about the whole song in general. What's the most important moment? So in this piece, where are the big moments or cadences for you?
Um, I think there's the transition from like the slow rubato section into the fast section is like a big, like in terms of like the form of the piece, that's like a big deal. And
Right.
then there's a, and this actually is probably what we're talking about before L, where it's kind of building up and ends with like a roll crescendo to a dead stroke, and then there's a little rest into like a new section into that, and then I think that section we were just talking about with the huge reach that builds up into one of the larger climaxes of the piece, I would say.
Right. So what I would do is probably you could write this out just to see it visually is like what happens in this piece, what are the most important moments, and how would space help? So obviously the end, we want something big, right? That's we're closing the whole thing off. That
Hmm.
has to be a big gesture. Um, and then just maybe write like on a grid, like 10 is the most important close, and then prioritize them. So that would give you some ideas of how long of space you want to put in. So if it's
Hmm.
a really important moment, the more space, the better, I'd say. Um, yeah, it always changes per piece and kind of in the moment how you play it.
Uh-huh.
Like if you're really crescendoing to a big finish in a section, you want to be as visual and dramatic as possible.
Hmm.
Yeah, so you use that to your advantage, because the challenge with marimba music is it's like a lot of times just a run-on sentence, almost like boom, 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 boom. So if you have those moments to like stop, it's actually very effective. So that was
Yeah.
one other suggestion to explore, um, and show it visually too in those times. The other thing, uh, the beginning, I was just thinking, it's very rhythmic. Any chance you could sing that rhythm? You don't have to sing the pitches, but the rhythm of the opening.
Daga da 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 daga 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 da gung gung ga da daga 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 da gung gung ga da daga daga daga
Okay,
daga.
okay, do it again, but put way more energy into it.
Like daga dun dun ba dun daga da daga 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 dun dun da dun daga da daga 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 dun dun da dun daga 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 da.
Good, good. Now we can play with that a bit. So depending on how you want to phrase it, like the first opening, you might do ga da da ba da ga da da, or you might go da 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 da. Um, try leading to the ends, like wherever there's a rest. Do do da da do da.
Like
Try
daga
that.
da 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 daga 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 da 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 daga daga daga.
Good. And now I think beat 4 could be also a little emphasis. Do get da 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 da. Do get da 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 da.
Uh-huh.
Try
Daga
that.
da 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 daga da daga 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 da 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 daga da daga daga.
Yeah. So
Yes.
those are just some ways you could do it. There's really, again, no rules here. It's whatever you want uh, to be most effective. But I thought you could play around with that more. So the
Mm-hmm.
biggest challenge I think with percussion instruments is we're naturally the most unmusical. So what I mean by that is if you're a singer or a horn player, um, just using your breath or your voice makes you more musical. You're going to put emphasis where we wouldn't in percussion naturally. For example, sing this back to me. Da 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 da.
Da 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 da.
So the problem with
And then
percussion, if we play that and we don't do anything, but our voice sounded.
listen. Uh-huh.
So our voice will do musical things, but our hands won't unless we make that happen. So I thought in general, you could just detail that a little bit in this piece, just to have it come alive, more rhythmic, more groove bass. Just playing with the rhythmic phrasing, I'd call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I thought you did amazing job, very musical. So yeah, wonderful playing.
Yeah, thanks. And those are
Joe Graham. Sorry, buddy, go on.
no, I was gonna say like some of the like especially the like stance and feet sort of thing. I'll definitely go to the practice room and try that out because I feel like that was one of the now that you've said that I realize in retrospect, oh, that was probably actually a bigger deal with this piece than I made of it for sure.
I think the thing with the stance thing as well, it's important to keep your back straight because it's really
Mhm.
natural to like when you bend to like bow your back over. So keeping that parallel will enable you to get a wider span.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, if you
and
want
that-
to watch an amazing artist who's got the best stance, watch some Anders Elton
yeah.
videos.
Uh-huh.
He's got the best physique of stance. And yeah, that it makes such a difference. For me personally, note accuracy gets at least 50% better
Mhm.
and more consistent. So
Great. Thank you, Graham. We'll let you get back to your LA endeavors.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
yes, nice
See
to
you
meet
soon.
you.
All right, great. And next up, we've got Ben somewhere. Where is he? There he is.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
Hello, Ben. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks.
All right, Ben, do you just want to, again, just talk a little bit about yourself and the piece whilst I cue it up, please?
Sure. So, I have a little bit of a Keiko Abe obsession. I got to study with her a few times and perform with her a few times.
Cool.
And I really want to do a whole album dedicated to her works. That's a project that I'm working on right now. And one of the pieces that I wanted to put on there was Itsuki Fantasy for Six Mallets, which is a piece that I worked on heavily in my undergrad. I think I did it on my senior recital. And I heard that you're a six mallet specialist. I actually saw that you were a six mallet specialist, and I figured you'd be like the greatest person in the spreadsheet to go to for this. So
Yeah, cool. This was the first piece I've ever played with six mallets. So
same here. Cool.
yeah.
All right, shall we hear Ben's rendition of Itsuki Fantasy?
Yes. All right, nice job, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so I hate to say the same thing as last time, but I'll mention it, the footwork. So where it's affecting you in this piece, it's actually your left hand volume.
Okay.
So what's happening is you're standing feet very close together, and sometimes there's like these wider spreads. For example, that the lick where your right hand's going up and left's going down.
Yeah.
So what's happening tonally is we're getting a lot of right hand volume, and then the left is dying off.
Okay.
So if you got in the right stance, I think your left, for me, I think we need way more bass, like 100 times the bass there. So if you got lower, you could get in the right position to really maximize that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. When you, because this was kind of something that was interesting me when you were talking to Graham. Where do you normally put your tessitura? Because I'm using the full range of the instrument, like it goes all the way up into like the high A, I think, and then like all the way down to the low D. So give or take, I'm using the full range of the 5-octave marimba. So where would you think that I should put my tessitura if I want to like have more bass? Should I like plot myself a little bit more to the left side, or should I stand like center of the marimba?
You'd have to trial and error, but right now you're in the wrong stance. But let me just change my camera. I think I can do this actually without using my webcam. Let's see, video. Oh no, it won't let me. Let's see. Let's just try this. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So, I'll add some mallets. I don't remember the notes, but right now what's happening is you're standing like pretty like this. And so at a certain point when you're around here, your arms are up, you have to lean over and it's weak. But if you got here, this is now powerful. I can pretty much do the whole, you can't see it, but I can have my notes at the bottom and top. Like I can hit all the accidentals. And you can still have power. So that's the biggest thing, is to not go up, but to get lower.
Good.
So what was happening as you went strong, and then as you reached, it just got weaker and weaker, and then the accuracy, and so lower, just getting a more quality sound.
Okay.
Another small thing, with time, I think this will get better, but what's really hard on marimba, and other instruments don't have this problem, is flamming. So with like unintentional between mallets. So it gets harder with 6 mallets because, you know, it can, if you're a little bit too loose, it might happen. So I think one thing you can work on is just getting very clean triple vertical strokes, I call them.
Okay.
So that'll come in time, just being more confident with this. But that's a small thing that when you have so many mallets, and if you're not 100% used to it, it'll creep up where we get more flams. So that's something to just listen for and then adjust accordingly. Nice thing about this piece is there's not that many interval changes. Mm-hmm. So now one thing you could do, like at the beginning, is the mallets don't always have to be like this. If you want, it's a little bit easier to rotate. If you think of this as a group of 1 and this is a group of 1, and you're rotating like this rather than doing this, you can, but really just want to think about the music. Sometimes when I played this piece, I put my mallets like that. So just a little bit easier technically. So let's say that opening, I think it's nice to show those different groupings in the phrasing. Do you have the music there?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, sorry, I'm going to grab it. So let's go to that.
Like the first group of 7, bar 5.
Yeah. So it's tricky because you're playing eighth notes, but musically you're not, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where are the phrases here?
They're kind of like umbrella phrases where the whole bar is one phrase, but in between you kind of have a group of 4 and 3 and a group of 3 and 4. So like ya da 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 ya da 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 da.
Right, and then later you have the groups of 7s, right? So I liked how you sang that. When you played it, you didn't play it like that.
Okay.
So that's another thing is if you sing it while you're doing it, you're going to add a little bit more emphasis. So can you just sing that opening? Even if the pitches aren't right, that's okay.
Yeah. Do you want me to start from the beginning or just from measure 5?
Yeah, beginning is great. Okay, very nice, very nice. Now, Tim, could you play that again? What he played, like the performance, just the opening? Okay, good.
So
So
it's
how
a
does
little
that?
square.
Yeah, it's a little too flat, right?
Yeah.
So,
I always get
this
like
is
really shaky at the beginning of it, and I'm like, just thinking like, oh my god, I have to hit A and G. I have to hit A and G.
right. Yeah, technically. So that's the hardest thing is getting so much control at the instrument that you can do musical stuff. So in general, when you're singing, you're sounding super musical. Now you need to translate that to your playing.
All right.
So that's going to apply to this whole piece. It's just going to make it way more musical. And you can also play with a vibrato, or sorry, not vibrato. You can play with rubato here at the beginning. I don't know. I haven't talked to Kiko Abe about this piece. I don't know what she was thinking you have, but for me, when I played it, I took way more space between the phrases and just I thought of it as more of a nice, beautiful melody than a rhythmic thing at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then in time, it can get really rhythmic. Like when you have the nice, like that big 7/4 bar on the first page with the accents. Ba-da-da, ba-da. That's like the last bar of the first page. Like I think it can build up to these really rhythmic things, but yeah, I thought just musicality, there's some stuff you can add for sure.
Cool.
Then another thing to think about before we run out of time is stroke types. So not really like thinking of like ups, downs, taps, not like that, but musically thinking about. So I guess the word is articulation.
Yeah, like tenutos and marcatos.
What does that word mean to you on marimba? Articulation.
To me, I think that articulation and timbre go hand in hand because that's really the only way that we have to express timbre on this instrument specifically, right? Like we can change our mallets, we're changing our articulation, we can change our, the density in which we hold the back of the mallets to make it more marcato or more legato. and that's really how we're going to alter our mood or our timbre. So
Right. So here's a thought to go a little deeper there is if we play into the bar, I think we get more of an articulate sound because the mallets touch the bar longer and we get more of like articulation. Now, if we're off of it quicker, it's like a more beautiful singing out sound because the mallets aren't deadening the bar at all. So I thought in general you were playing on the heavier side.
okay,
And this is a Burton grip challenge because when we're playing like this, the mallets make a way more articulate sound because we're playing into it.
yeah,
It's just the way the grip works. And Steven's grip is the opposite. It's like this light open sound. So I thought you could explore more of that light open at times. And then when you have those moments to dig in, they'll be more effective.
all
Does
right,
that make sense?
yeah.
So I think you can explore thinking more articulation and using those really decisively and calculated more. Yeah, so that'll also help you with the rolling section, just loosening up, getting a more open sound, not playing so much into the bar. And then at those big moments, we need more bass so you can dig in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so that in general would help. But I think,
Could I ask a follow-up question to that?
yeah, go ahead.
So one thing that I've noticed, because I agree with you, like especially with six mallets, I have kind of gotten into the habit of tightening up and like playing a little harder, where I'd like to loosen up the back of my palm essentially to make it more floaty, if you will. However, that kind of goes hand in hand with the stopping of the flamming. So how do you?
Right.
What's your thought for you hear yourself flamming maybe, but you want to keep it loose?
Right. So I think what'll help you the most is actually not really loosening up, because if you loosen up too much, of course, that changes your consistency with the flams. But what's happening with you is just playing into the bar versus playing out of the bar.
Okay.
So think more in terms of less contact time and more time in the air versus playing more time digging in.
Okay.
And that's going to change your sound.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks. That makes a lot of sense. It's not like it's not a back here thing. It's a relationship from stick to instrument thing.
Yeah. Honestly, the instrument doesn't know how you're holding it. Like the marimba bar physically, if you're holding it different, it will change the sound, but it's more of playing into it or playing out of it that changes it more than, like if you're holding in the back, that affects the ratio, but you can change that just by playing in or out of the keys, and also the angle that you hit. So if you're hitting parallel, that's more articulate, and if you change the angle, that becomes less.
Yeah.
So we can do that. We can think about how long, how heavy you are, and how much time you're in the air, and rather than making sacrifices to your technique.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
That makes
Great.
sense. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, thank you.
All right. See you later. Well done. Okay. And next up, I think we've got a Six Mallet Fest. We've got Ryan somewhere. We're going to zoom into Las Vegas.
Cool.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, everyone. How you doing?
Yeah, good. As ever, could you tell us a little bit, please?
Of course. So I'm Ryan Bond. I'm doing my doctorate program at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And the piece I've prepared for you is the 5 short works for solo marimba. There's, of course, 5 movements. However, due to time restraints, I decided to choose one. So I wanted something with a little more jumps, as well as getting a little bit of a chorale in there. So I chose a third movement it's got a little bit of both and goes over the whole range of the instrument too.
Cool.
All right, let's hear a little bit.
All right, awesome job, Ryan. Yeah,
Thank you.
great control of the instrument. A lot of great stuff happening. So I think one suggestion, and I think you're living in the perfect place for it, is thinking about the character that you're trying to portray in the music, or just as an artist, thinking about yourself really as an artist and how your body movement affects it. So the reason why I brought this up is I'm thinking of the Blue Man Group from Las Vegas, because they're almost more theater than the music is like a secondary thing. Like they're so good at like being characters. So one thing I thought maybe towards the end of this video is you have some pauses in the music, and what happens is there's like this really cool pause, and then you're kind of like moving, getting adjusted, playing, and then moving. I'm being more dramatic, but which would be cool if you were more like bam, like it was more theatrical, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Tim, could you pull up that video and play it kind of 3/4 in towards the end? There's some moments with the pauses. I just want to show that to Ryan.
Yeah. So where would that, Ryan? Any idea where that might be?
I don't have a timestamp on me.
Just roughly, the whole video is 4 minutes. So.
Probably go around 3 minutes.
All right, here we go.
See, for example, I know it's hard because you're going to adjust mallets sometimes, but yeah, good. Pause it. So, yeah, what do you think about that?
I like what you're saying. This is something that'll definitely help with, I mean, silence can be explosive. So that's something that, like you're talking about with the theatrics, can definitely bring that out a bit. I like it. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. You have a very physical, like, you're playing it very athletically, so I think that would just highlight things even more. Same thing with the other guy's footwork. A lot of times you're moving to adjust, like with your feet, and that could be a lot more seamless if you're in stance. And if you're shifting, it's just this much. It's not like this. So I think when you're always like this, that'll help a lot.
Right.
Musically, like, or technically, what challenges did you have with this piece?
One thing for me is, of course, mallets, when you're holding 6, get really heavy and they get tiresome on the arms. So I feel like my fingers tend to get tired, exhausted, which is why, hence for some of the adjusting, the slipping of getting used to holding all 6 mallets, 3 in a hand. The other thing, the very end, a couple things you mentioned with the footwork, and especially like that reach with that last note. I'm a shorter guy. Don't know if you can tell by the video, but that was kind of my full, that I could give.
Yeah, without getting low. Yeah, so I think getting low and using the right footwork is going to change that 100%. So in terms of like just sound wise, I know this piece, it's got that kind of vibe to it where the articulation and playing heavy works well, but I thought in general, you could also just lighten up your touch and just relax more. It just looks like a little bit too tense. What do you think about that?
I definitely think, and I will agree with that is something I can aim towards. Like I mentioned, I don't know if it's just more time building up that muscle to where my hands, because I know it's, whether it's nerves or whatever it might be, by tightening up your hands, it starts to spread everywhere else, get tense. And I think maybe it's just, like I mentioned, more time working on the muscles. But if I can get everything in my hands a little more relaxed. It'll relax the rest of my body in playing, so it's not as stiff like you're mentioning.
And it's challenging because you're playing with like the Dean Gronemeyer kind of modified Musser-Stevens grip, right?
Right. He does the Stevens grip with the superimposed Burton. Yes.
Yeah. So Stevens grip to begin with can be tricky, right? On your arms, and then when you add a third one, it gets a lot worse. So I think, yeah, it might take time to develop just the muscles, or it just might be trying to relax more while you're doing it, and it might be the weight of the mallets. I'm not sure. The grip I use doesn't hurt the hand, so I can get away with heavier mallets, but you might want to explore yeah, the weight of the mallets might be something big in this grip, that if you can find some that have a nice sound, that you can still get a fundamental pitch. Because generally what happens if you have too light of mallets, we lose, especially in the bass, a lot of the fundamental, and we get more of the overtones. So it's just finding the right balance. But that's something to maybe explore as well. Same thing as the previous 6 mallet performance, just getting consistent. So when you have those triple vertical strokes, that we get less flams and more of a clean sound. Obviously, you don't have to over stress about that, but that's something that, at least for me, I'm trying to work on really clean sounds. So just practicing slower and just trying to get as clean of a sound you can get. And that's going to come over time as well. But that was one thing, which is more tricky in this piece, because sometimes you have accidentals mixed in too. So it's hard to get those like really clean. But that was one area that I thought you could think about. And just like the other performers, musically taking more space sometimes, and less of a space to get yourself adjusted, but more musical space. So there's a lot of really cool phrases that finish, and that would be nice to just be more of a performer and less of a technician, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you.
Nice job, though. So, yeah, keep it up.
Thank you.
All right, great. Nice one, Ryan. Thanks so much. As ever, very good. We'll just put you backstage, and I think we're going to hear from Albin next. So it's definitely a marimba vibe in this session. No pun intended.
What song are we doing? Sorry.
We are going to be doing Rhythmic Caprice in this one.
Hello.
Albin, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good.
Do you want to just talk a little bit about yourself and where you're from, and then I'll load up Rhythmic Caprice for you?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Albin. I'm from Sweden, but I'm currently studying in Denmark on my bachelor's there in Odense.
What school?
I'm going to the conservatory in Odense, and I'm playing. I thought about playing Rhythmic Caprice here right now. It's a piece I played a while ago when I started studying a lot with classical percussion. I really enjoy playing that piece. So I really want to perform it as good as possible and see how far it can go.
Awesome.
Basically, and see.
All right, here we go. By the way, guys, don't forget to mute your mics, please.
Yeah.
All right, nice job. So, yeah, I liked how it kind of built up towards the end, and that was the biggest moment. So musically, that was really nice that it ended big like that. So I've got a question: does your back hurt when you practice this, or how do you feel like bending over like that for so long? I think your microphone is muted.
Oh yeah, sorry. I didn't really think about it until I actually recorded myself doing it, because my stance when I do it, I just lower my legs so much, and then I try to keep my back straight, but I think I forget it when I actually
Right.
just play. But I don't feel like I'm bending the back so much when I actually play, as I saw when I after I made the video.
Yeah, well, you're so
Uh,
young, so it hasn't caught up with you, but in time it will. Um,
Maybe. So
yeah,
I will work on that. See if I can
yeah.
fix my
So
back
that's
posture.
back posture, and
Mm,
also just the same stance as I was talking with the other guys. Doing this with your legs and shifting your weight rather than moving so much, that's gonna be huge for you in this piece. And it's
mm,
also you're gonna be able to get lower actually.
mm.
So that's the biggest recommendation for this song is just the stance.
Yeah.
Um, Now the hardest thing about this is the rhythmic part of it. So because you have to play so fast and it's very technical, um, it's easy for each mallet to sound similar, like especially every click. So the biggest thing that I think this would take this piece for you to the next level is focusing on the rhythmic element. So we're going to go back to some of the tools I was saying earlier, but I want you to try singing this. Um, and obviously you might not be able to sing it as fast as you can click, but I want you to try to rhythmically sing the beginning. Can you try that? Yeah, I liked how
That
you
one.
sang that. Tim, can you
Mm.
play the beginning of the video? Okay, good. So, how did it sound like listening back versus your voice?
I think I emphasized more things when I sang it now here than what I heard on
Yeah,
the video.
yeah. Like one thing you did nice on the video was like a ba da ba da. I heard
Mm,
that, but the rest of it was a little bit more flat.
mm,
So, just need to apply that concept to the whole piece.
mm,
It just needs to dance more. So, I have two suggestions. One is you sing it and practice it really slow and sing it while you're playing it. It's not about the pitches, it's about the rhythmic. That kind of thing. We want
mm.
that emphasis to come across. So the tricky thing is going to be translating your technique to play that. So what are the tools technically that you need to do to be able to get that across to the listener?
Like what techniques I use for it? I think it's
Not like
yeah.
not like double vertical stroke or laterals, but like what basic percussion techniques do we have to make something rhythmic?
Just like the kind of strokes we do it with.
Yeah, the kind of
Uh,
strokes, basically
like
strokes and
this. Yeah.
articulation. So
Mm,
ups and downs, like what you can do is apply those like the down up taps, that kind of thing, to your 4 mallet technique. So even if you're doing this, like mallet 4-3, you can actually do that up, down, or you can go down, up. So it doesn't have to be just this, but it can be up, down, and that would go D-da, D-da, D-da. So what you need to do is apply like basically drumming and snare drum technique to 4 mallets with ups and downs and full strokes, all that kind of stuff. How much weight you put into things, thinking about the sound and translating what your voice can do, but to the instrument. So if you can do that for the whole piece, it's going to be magical, because you sang it so nice. So it's just a matter of translating your voice to the instrument. Now that's the first recommendation. The other one would be getting a friend who's a drummer to play along with you. Now it's going to be a little bit tricky for them, but if you can slow it down with them and they can basically just play like the subdivisions, like, and the phrasing at the same time, that's going to help a lot. Like if you can make it dance with them, and that'll make it very metronomic. Like you'll have to play it in the pocket with the drummer. And I think,
I mean, like the drummer is playing some kind of beat, and I would
like
play it too with that.
And you play along with that. And if you get used to that, then you want to imagine when you're playing it, you take the drummer away, but you want to be the drummer. So the drummer, when he or she plays with you, they're going to add that emphasis, but then, and you'll get used to it, playing it with a lot of feel. Then you want to take them out of it, and you want it to sound like they are still there.
Okay, yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I keep the groove going all by myself.
Yeah, that's really the secret to this song is it's got to be really rhythmic and dance. And so it's hard because it gets fast, but that still needs to happen. And also for example, the clicking sections. So when you're doing those fast clicks, Tim, could you play that at the beginning when he's doing a lot of the lateral strokes? Go back to the start. So when he's bent over, I think it's close to the very beginning, actually. Yeah, so this kind of thing, you can stop it. So I don't think all those clicks should sound the same. They should
Have some
musically have some phrasing and character. A lot of them can actually crescendo, especially when you're going like do 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 ba, like the 4-note, like a 5-stroke roll, da 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 kind of thing. Those could have a really nice crescendo to them. So if you start the whatever hands first, softer, and then dig into it, like kind of thing. Like
okay, yeah.
So everything just needs more character.
Okay, yeah.
So you're doing a nice job getting the notes. Now it's time to like musically just bring it to life rhythmically. Yeah, so that's my biggest thing, biggest suggestion for this whole piece. Every single bar you can go into great deal in exploring that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just go nerdy with all the bars and the drumming.
Yeah, it's just a matter of the instrument. It's not musical until you make it. Where if you were playing these rhythms, like on a saxophone, they're going to have more emphasis naturally. just by going ta 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 ta, like, if that makes sense. But since we're hitting it, the bar is going to be the same unless we change how much character we put into it. So it's just the nature of percussion. Naturally, I think we get a bad rep because people can play it so simply. Like, you can walk up and learn a simple melody, but to actually make it sound as good as another instrument requires so much finesse and input, that it's very hard to play musically. Where other instruments, it's like hard to make the first note, but once you get over those hurdles, it's naturally more musical. So yeah, I think in general that's the direction you should explore with this. But yeah, nice work.
Thank you very much. I will play around with it a bit.
Awesome.
All right, nice job, Albin. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, and then finally, I think we're going to go to the Holmes duo, Cody and Ben, brothers, and they're going to play one of their own pieces for you, duo piece.
Cool.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hello. So did you guys write this together, or is it one of you that wrote it? Or
This one's mine. The video we're about to show is from basically, I think, like the night before one of my DMA recitals. And it's one we actually paid someone to film, so pretty cool. But
cool.
yeah, so I write and Cody writes. The last one we did on here was mine as well, and Cody has a couple he's going to show in a couple of these later sessions. Yeah, this is from, I think over a year and a half ago maybe, but
Cool.
like composing, and it gives us an excuse to see you live about like a 7-hour drive. So when we do get together, it's kind of like a jam session to get all these things recorded and performed. And
Right. Cool.
All right, I think I'm ready.
Awesome job, guys. That was really, really cool. I really like the piece, and you guys are playing it so well. Yeah, that's amazing. So, yeah, I really loved it a lot. Yeah, I just maybe have one or two thoughts, but I think you guys are doing so many things so well. I really like, especially at the beginning, how you have this kind of rhythmic bass line and then little phrases happen and you're finishing them off really nicely as a duo, which is really nicely done because they're playing really tight. Musically, there's so many great things happening. So if I'm thinking if I was to listen to this live, which would be different than a video, but I think you could play with more of the soft, like get even softer, like have a much softer kind of bottom of the valley. And then when you get to those huge moments, they'll be even bigger. It's kind of like almost remind me maybe a little bit of some film music. And I'm thinking just using dynamics, especially to portray a big moment. Like in, let's say if it was filmed with a movie, almost like disappear and then come back, that kind of thing. It could have these nice sways. It's just an idea. I don't want to tell you how to play your own piece, but that was one thought I had. And then probably the most challenging thing with the marimba is just the tuning of the overtones, like in the bass. So I don't know if you guys can hear, but I think those mallets have a lot of overtones coming across. I don't know if you guys agree, but might be a matter of exploring some mallets, which has a little bit more fundamental pitch, kind of in that mid to lower range. And I think that'll make the tuning just a little bit nicer. Could you guys hear that, or am I crazy? Maybe it's my speakers.
Yeah, I think in hindsight, if we were going to play it again, I mean, that's something I've thought about, maybe a little bit less articulate, especially like in the, the mallet 1, mallet 2 range.
Yeah.
Well, they're pretty heavy core, and I felt like they sounded good like in the hall we were in at the time, or like whenever we were doing the video and stuff. But I can definitely, there are some weird overtones kind of poking out, and it sounds a little bit like hammery a little bit on the bottom.
Yeah, it's not really your fault. It's just the instrument, and it's the biggest challenge with the bass of marimbas is unless you have really wide bars, like for example the low C, the modern day marimba that we play, it's basically making sacrifices to the quality of sound, because if you've ever seen like a Zimbabwe bass marimba, the low C is supposed to be about this wide and about this long, like this massive bar. So that gives a full, like true fundamental pitch when you hit it with this great big mallet, but it's the same note as the bottom of our 5 octaves. So basically each marimba manufacturer, they come up with their own like acceptance of how big those low bars should be. And so because they make them a lot smaller than they should be, it's just, unless you hit, even if you're hitting like in the perfect spot, I'll just do this for, and you guys probably know this, but in case some people don't know, I'll flip my video, sorry. Oh, no, I couldn't do that. So basically this low C should be way bigger, but if you hit it in the center, right there, it doesn't sound very good. We get so many overtones. So if we hit it a little bit past, say, the nodal spot, we get a lot of the octave above it, like this note. hit it just off center, that's the most fundamental pitch. Is that coming across?
Yeah, that makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
it is.
So what we can do for now, if you have the big bar, like the big Zimbabwe bass, it doesn't matter where you hit it, it's going to sound nice. So there's a couple things we need to do, because if they had the big bass on the marimba, it just wouldn't be playable. So for me, when I chose a marimba, I went with a marimba by Doug DeMoro because it has a little bit wider bars, which makes it harder, but I feel like there's a little bit more fundamental pitch versus, say, like I don't want to say anything bad about other makers, but let's say like the Marimba 1 model with the skinnier bars, it has a lot less fundamental pitch. So knowing that, the things that can help is playing position, like really getting extreme with it, a little bit off center if you can. It's really hard as you play like such a hard piece, and then a softer mallet or a heavier and soft will also work. So it's tricky with a piece like this, because if you're playing it live, you need articulation versus the vibes. So, but maybe if you ever recorded it, not that you have to record it again, but that's just something for future pieces. If you're recording, maybe softer on that marimba, and then you'll get less of those overtones. But yeah, that's just something to think about. But I really love the piece, and you guys are playing it amazingly. You guys work so well as a duo. So yeah, I really loved it. What are your guys' thoughts on your video of it? Are you happy with it, or?
Somewhat. Really, we do this so we have an excuse to see each other. We're just trying to get out and play more. Now, kind of project is getting more in person in front of people instead of just trying to get a video out real quick, which is hard. But I feel like that was maybe like a year and a half or so when we did that. I feel like we've gotten more. Like, we just do this more. Neither of us are like trained composers or anything. We just kind of messed around it. But stuff like the range of the marimba and the type of mallet you have to use, like we think about that more now.
Right.
Like, we're doing something like back then I don't that at all. I don't think.
Yeah.
Oh, this sounds cool, and Sibelius, and he'll be able to play it. That was kind of the two things. And on your YouTube channel, you're kind of daily content with kind of the popular stuff and the video game stuff, which is awesome. But I noticed that you compose as well, and you post that stuff too. When you can, I kind of had a question for you. If you how often are you still getting to compose and put your own stuff out there and perform like that?
Right. So I think I compose more when I was in university and doing a master's degree, and then a little bit when I was teaching. Some people would commission me to write stuff, and I really like that, because I think as an artist, it's really nice if you can compose and it feels good, like, to get your work out there. So honestly, lately I've done nothing, which is sad, but I would love to get back into it at some point. It's hard because, like, things like YouTube, they're so competitive that it's hard to share new stuff with people until you have maybe some reputation with them. So I think for me now is the time that I could probably get into that and have viewers, where before it gets a little bit hard because nobody knows who you are. So getting someone who doesn't know what a percussion instrument is, they don't understand the music, like they probably won't watch it. So I think what a lot of artists do on the internet is like get well known and then they start pumping out their own stuff, which is a good strategy. So do you guys have a YouTube channel or other social media?
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel. It's just under Holmes Percussion, and we started writing together back whenever I was an undergrad. I think Ben was in his master's at OU, and like we actually had a marimba duet that did really well. It's called Insomnia. I think it has about 600,000 views, and it's a lot of
Nice.
people still watch it, and that kind of like it wasn't for that reason, but we kind of found like, oh, I feel like we can do this and have some success and keep going. So yeah, we have a marimba or a YouTube channel, has a bunch of different duets on there. I think we probably have at least 10 now that we've kind of put out over the years. We usually do like 1 or 2 a year, pretty much at this point.
Right. So yeah, I'll have to check that out. Holmes Percussion. I'm gonna subscribe to you guys after this. Yeah, I really liked your piece. So one thing you guys might explore, and I'll have to check out your page, is maybe snippets of your pieces, like on something like YouTube Shorts or TikTok, like just a smaller version, and then link them in the comments to your longer piece. It just might get more traffic to those videos. Just the hardest thing is, I bet like there's so many people who would love listening to that last song that you just shared, but they'll never get that video served to them, or they might, but they might not click on it. So if there's ways of directing traffic, then the algorithm will also learn, oh, this person who liked this video also watches these other videos. They're similar, so I'm going to recommend them something similar. And you might be able to keep growing an audience to share your music. So yeah, using maybe short form, just little clips in creative ways might get even more people to see your work. So yeah, I really like what you guys are doing.
Well, thanks.
Well, thank
Really,
you very much.
Yeah. You guys need to do more. I'll have to check out more of your pieces.
All right, I'm kind of glad that we took it in this direction, because I sort of wanted to ask a few questions in that vein anyway, particularly with the success you've had. So I didn't know, Joe, if you're happy just to spend the next sort of 10, 15 minutes maybe fielding some questions if anyone's got some.
Sure.
But before we do that, Ben, Holmes, and Cody. Sorry, it's something coming through. My daughter is a massive fan. She's next door. She's 5 years old. She says, "Daddy, I like this one," but she did say she doesn't know the name of the piece. So whenever I play anything, I'm going to try and put the title of the piece underneath from now on. So that's cool.
Cool.
So let's bring on Ryan. Let's bring on. Who else we got? We got anyone? Albin, are you still there, buddy? Yep.
Hello.
Great. So if anyone's got any questions that you want to ask Joe, now would be the time. There it is. Anyone got any questions?
I've got. Oh, okay. You can go ahead, Ryan. I just asked.
Isa, I know you're a busy guy, Joe. How do you manage all your time?
Good question. It's harder because I have 2 young kids now. So I used to have lots of time and didn't know, but how do I think the key is preparation and planning ahead. So and this can apply to, I think, anyone, no matter what you're doing. It's, for example, let's say I'll apply it to what I do, which is making videos now. So the best thing I could do is spend time planning future videos and having lots of things ready to go before they happen. Because what's really challenging for me is, let's say I'll make a video, I'll practice hard for a few days and then record it. And then it's like, okay, what's next? Crap, I got to start this whole process. Every video, it's like another video, another video, another video. So just planning ahead, then before I record, I already have the next video planned. That kind of thing. If I can plan ahead, then I can be more efficient and have better results. And then something to prioritize as a young person that I didn't was maybe your health. I think if you can stay healthy and get good sleep, that'll go longer than anything, because when you work on something, you'll be way more efficient. So that's something I'm thinking about now that I didn't as when I was younger, but that should not be overlooked, because if you're feeling great and you have 15 minutes to do something, you're going to be way better place than feeling foggy and tired and doing it. So that's another thing. Keep your health. Okay, next question.
I just had a question on because I see some of your videos. It's like one take, and you're playing like 15 different. It's kind of like excerpts, even though it's not like repertoire. It reminds me of like practicing excerpts. And I just wonder, how long does that take you on average? Like a one taker when you run around like the 15 different instruments.
Yeah, it's hard. It's all about preparation. So if I don't practice enough, then it might take me a while. But if I feel confident about it, then it takes a lot less time. But it is challenging because I'm trying to make so many videos. The longer I make, or the longer I spend practicing, the less videos I can put out. So I'm usually never that confident. Like learning something, I still have to learn it and it has to feel good. So usually when I play stuff, it doesn't always feel good yet. So let's say there's like 14 instruments in a row. Things that happen to me that you wouldn't think about happen all the time. Like I'll breathe too loud and I'll listen back because the camera is so close to your mouth. It's like, oh, I'm breathing way too loud. That was a perfect take. I can't even use it. Or I looked around too quick. Like I did a jog, like, and it just looks weird on the camera. So I have to think about being like a robot with my motions. Or like I'm grooving. Oh, that looks really funny. Like there's lots of things aside from playing that pops in. Certain instruments, like if you've seen, I've done like stylophone things. Sometimes the speaker glitches out. So even if you play it right, like the speaker doesn't work out and it sounds funny. Like things like that happen. Certain instruments like hand pans, there's notes underneath of it. So I don't play those every day. So it's like I go to get that E underneath of it. Oh, I didn't quite get it. Crap, I got to start this again. So sometimes I'll get it early on, and sometimes it takes me like 30 minutes. The other thing is the GoPros that I use, the battery doesn't last too long and it overheats. So I usually have a limit, and then after 30 minutes, it's overheated. So if I don't get it in the first 30 minutes, then I'll take some time, practice some more, and try it once the battery's yeah, the overheating problem's gone. But yeah, it's a mix. But no matter what, every video is actually hard. It's never like I've played percussion for 15 years or something. This would be easy. There's always something that's hard about it. So
Great. Anyone else? No? All right. Great. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate your willingness to come on and share, your words of wisdom. And I know the guys have found it really useful. I know I certainly have, just revisiting some of the like postural aspects, which, I say on a daily basis to my students, but even when I look at some of my videos, like I'm completely not doing what I think I am, like what Alvin was saying as well. So it's quite refreshing just to have a little revisit to that. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, the one thing I'd say in general is that posture is the hardest for us because we're looking down and we have to see the instrument to actually play it. So I think if you want to do this for your whole life, there's a good chance that you might get shoulder problems or arm problems if you're not aware of that. And you also stretch and do more prevention. It's something that almost nobody talks about, but as you get older and older, that gets worse and worse, and because we're always looking down, and so that's actually quite problematic after, say, doing it for 30 years. So yeah, that's a huge thing.
Yeah. And I said on a previous live stream as well, it's sort of the combination of a lifestyle of a percussionist is like playing and then like inevitably going on the computer for something.
Right.
And you find that they're exactly the same in terms of your posture. So you're not really having a break from that position.
Right.
So it's like double whammy for me anyway, certainly. So it's really important to think about that, not only playing, but like just typing and stuff. It's quite crucial.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah. All right, great. Well, thank you, Joe, and thank you on behalf of all the WPG here. It's great to see you doing so well, and long may it continue. I'm sure you've got many other projects in the pipeline, and hopefully WPG we can collaborate with you at some point. I know we've been sort of discussing a few options, which I look forward to. But until then, I'm just going to end